Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Taylor Campbell and welcome to Comic Crash and welcome to the first video of Toy Story Month 2020. I'm so excited. I love Toy Story Month. This was really fun last year. It's going to be fun this year and we're going to kick things off with a bang. I found something really interesting. One of the reasons why people should collect comics is that every once in a while you come across some very wacky stuff and it leaves you with a story to tell. Superman is infected with a xenomorph. When Peter Parker turned into a giant spider monster, or that one time they thought it would be a good idea to give Han Solo a giant green cartoon bunny as a sidekick. But then sometimes you find something that really makes you do a double take and is interesting, not because it's so much weird in a bad way, but weird in an interesting way. And that's what I have to share with you guys today. Today, we're talking about the Toy Story manga. They made a manga out of this. So for a while now, Disney has been teaming up with the studio Tokyo Pop to create manga based off of Disney properties. And with very few exceptions, these are usually adaptations of movies, like just straight adaptations. And those of you who remember the last time we looked at a strict adaptation of a movie here, it was not the best. But this right here is a manga, and I'm kind of hoping that the manga carries around with it some of the tropes and some of the differences to make this a worthwhile experience. So is this any good? Well, who knows? Nobody knows. Except for me. I know. I know it because I've read it a couple of times, so let me tell you. So first things first, this book is all fancy and reversible and stuff. Side A is the first movie, and side B is the second movie, which is great. That means we only have 2 movies, 1 spin-off movie, 65 TV episodes, 3 TV specials, and 14 short films. I mean, that's a good thing that Toy Story is like good, otherwise all this milking might become a problem. Now the thing this book does really well, and is a credit to the adapter Tetsuro Koshida, is that it understands when the big moments of the movies are and uses the language of comics to accentuate that, to make these moments seem bigger than they actually are just on paper. For instance, on the Toy Story 2 side of things, when we get to the introduction of Jessie the cowgirl, in the movie it's a big moment and it's big framed by, it has specific framing, it has specific colors. If we look in the comic book here, we have things get really soft and then all of a sudden on the turn page we see Jessie the cowgirl and it becomes a big moment. This is a big deal. This is fantastic, and it's not the only instance that something like this happens in the book. Like when Woody vows that he is still Andy's favorite toy, in the movie he's isolated from everyone.
They'll see. I'm still Andy's favorite toy.
But in this book, we see that Slink and Bo Peep are trying to be supportive in the middle distance. The movie had the benefit of having a music montage to show Woody's replacement. This one tries to emphasize that emotion, since they can't use a music soundtrack, by symbolism. We see Andy drop the cowboy hat, and it leaves a big impact with me as the reader seeing that. I understand what they're trying to say. The pictures in this book are constantly utilized to bring more understanding and more meaning to the specific instances of the movie. The movie has the advantage of being in motion, of having a soundtrack, so the comic book has to compensate for that somehow, and they do it all the time here. This book understands the language of comics and creates an experience that only this medium could portray. This does make up for the inevitable issue. It's like a comic. That they have page limits and they can't show everything. So the way they get around this is they take some of the beefier moments and they compress them while be leaving pages available for them to expand on some of the more emotionally gripping stuff. For instance, in Toy Story 2, it doesn't start with the Buzz Lightyear video game. It doesn't start with Woody looking for his hat. It doesn't start with the toys training Buster. It starts at the very end of Andy's playtime. And they do this, which it cuts out a lot of the beginning of Toy Story 2, but it does leave enough pages for Jesse's backstory to be explained and to still feel emotionally heavy. So we already talked a lot about how the story works and how the paneling and language of comics influences the story in this book. Let's go ahead and talk about the art. Now, of course, when Toy Story 1 and Toy Story 2 were made, they were made at the infancy of computer animation, which means that they had certain limitations to them. One of those was that the characters were limited to the specific geography of their character models. They couldn't really stretch and they couldn't really squish very much. So to compensate for this, Pixar was very, very smart and decided, no, we're going to make all of their actions huge. They're going to wave their arms around, they're going to yell, they're going to scream. It's going to be big on-screen action. So if the movie took all of the character action and moved it up to 11 to make it work, then this book takes that same action and bumps it up to maybe a 13. Gives it a really big sad AM kind of vibe to it. While this does give it a much more comedic tone than it would otherwise, I don't think it detracts from the emotional drama of some of the heavier scenes. I think the heavier scenes still work and maybe in some cases hit even a little bit harder because the rest of the book is so much more wacky. So in conclusion, the Toy Story manga, it's a unique experience. While not being wholly original, just based on value of it being an adaptation of a movie, it does come with a few unique ideas and a bit of a different flavor that I really dig and I think is really interesting and really fascinating to dig into. Is it a substitute for the movies? Of course not. No adaptation of any media works as a full substitute, but it is worth it. It is a fun time and it is a fun experience on its own right. So, would I recommend this to you? Well, I would recommend you this book if you really like Toy Story, like myself, particularly the first two. If you are beginning to get into manga, I think this is a really safe step to go in. And if you're into collecting Disney comics, then it's really worth just checking out the whole Tokyo Pop line because that seems to be where Disney's putting a big focus right now. Fortunately, this book is also pretty easy to get to. It's on Amazon. It's very available on Amazon and online. I got it at my local comic shop. Very available there. You can usually talk to your local comic shop and they could probably even order it in. So, there you go. Go to your local comic shop, they need you. And of course, if you like this book, then you'll probably like these. We've got Return of Buzz Lightyear. It's a great continuation of Toy Story. I made a video about it. I'll put a link up here. We've got Pokemon Adventures. It's another really good manga, really safe, really good starting point, I would say, if you're new to manga. And there are a ton more Disney manga from Tokyo Pop. Specifically, they do a lot of Pixar movies. So if you're interested in just fleshing out a Pixar library, then you might be interested in those as well. So, there we go. That is the first video of Toy Story month. It's going to be fun. I have a lot of big things in store this month. I'm really excited to share it with you, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this book or really anything Toy Story related. Let's talk about it in the comments below. And hey, until next time, thank you for joining me. Have a great day, and remember to always be your best self. And that is what the Toy Story manga does. Wow, I cannot hold this book the right way.